Okay, good. So this is a forum dedicated to the practice of inquiry. It's a public forum, so anybody is welcome to come along. And in each section of it, we take apart a particular angle of the practice. And this is the second in a sort of three-part series that I'm doing, where we look at sort of three slightly different kinds of experience. So I'll say a little bit more about that. Last month, we looked at sort of inquiring into what is. Like, that's one of the things you can ask, right? What's here? What am I feeling? What is this experience? And you can get sort of quite precise on what it is. Like, whoa, if I'm feeling sad, what is the feeling? What am I feeling sad about? How does it feel? How does it show up? These are all ways of finding out what it is, right? Or if I'm feeling some kind of presence, I feel openness in my head, it feels open, it feels clear, I can hang out with it and describe the actual details of the experience, right? So again, all ways of kind of finding out what is. And that's a fundamental part of our inquiry, right? We love to get in touch with ourselves, find out the truth, find out what's showing up here. So this evening, we're going to look at a slightly different thing, which is to notice that our experience is not only a fixed thing that doesn't change, right? You can find out what is, that's totally valid. But you may also notice that your experience is flowing and changing the whole time, right? So your experience is in a continuous process of changing and flowing and becoming, transforming from one thing into another. There are different forces that draw on you and pull on you and that lead to these kind of changes. And it turns out that's also part of the truth. Right? So that's also something you can inquire into. And my whole sort of motive in looking into these three different things is it's a place I see people get a little stuck sometimes, especially actually with the one we're going to look at today. People are not sure, like I'm supposed to be looking at what's here. How do I deal with the way my experience is flowing or is being pulled? So that's our topic for this evening. So to begin with, I will invite you to find a comfortable meditation position. And we'll begin with just a short meditation. So you want to be sitting in an upright position so that you're comfortable and supported. Your spine is free. So you can be upright, not rigid, but not collapsing. And let your eyes close. And let your attention come to your lower belly, right? This lower belly area. Now, very interesting. You can place one hand over your lower belly and rest the other hand over that. And that may help bring some attention, give you some sensation to focus on there. I'm going to start off just asking you to see what can you sense in your belly. If you were just to describe the what of it, the what is there. Maybe you feel the warmth of your hand, maybe you feel your clothing, tightness of your belt, the fullness of your dinner. Maybe you feel the movement of your belly as you breathe. And maybe you feel some kind of presence. Maybe a sense of openness or density or a point of presence. That may be something you sense there as well. Maybe a bubbling or a fizzing. So you're taking a moment to really notice for yourself what it is, even if it's not much at all, right? Maybe you just feel, I can't feel much at all. Just notice that. So now you're gonna stay with sensing that. Right? Keep sensing it, stay in touch. And when I say stay with sensing it, I don't mean that it should stay the same. Like if you notice what you're sensing in your belly now, is it exactly the same experience as it was a few minutes ago, or seconds ago? What's it like now? In fact, if you really attend to it moment by moment, even with the simple movement of your breath, you'll probably notice something moving, shifting. So this is a living experience. It's not like a rock that doesn't move, although sometimes you might feel a rock there that doesn't seem to move. But even if you sense that, from moment to moment, you may notice some subtle changes. Noticing what's there now. How is it now? So we'll take a few minutes sitting quietly together, and you just want to notice what happens to this sensation in your belly as you attend to it. And notice what's happening in your belly center now. Simply continuing to attend to your belly, the sensations of your belly. How is it now? And a final check-in. Just notice what's present in your belly in this moment. And then begin sensing your arms and your legs, including the broader sensations of your body. Notice how you're feeling. Notice what's on your mind, or the condition of your mind. Is your mind quiet, or at ease, or curious? Got questions? And then add listening. How does it affect you to add listening? Like as you begin including the soundscape and the sounds and actively listening, how does that make you feel? How does that change your state? What begins happening in your state? And then gently let your eyes open and begin looking. Gently looking, including your visual sense, the environment, the screen. Notice how's that? How does it affect your state, your consciousness, as you begin looking? So you're sensing, looking, listening. So I'm curious, what did you notice just in that very short couple of minutes of meditation? Did the experience in your belly, how can I do this? Nod your head if it stayed the same, if it didn't change. Nod your head if it stayed the same the whole time. Okay, nobody had, one person had that experience. Kind of stayed the same. Yeah, kind of stayed more or less the same. Yeah. Take it that means nod your head if it kind of seemed to change a bit over the course of the time. Okay, a couple of heads nodding. Yeah. So our inner world is a really dynamic affair. In fact, at the biggest picture in the Diamond Approach, dynamism, impermanence, change is kind of seen as one of the fundamental features of all experience. It's always changing. And when you think about it, that's been recognized in many traditions. Right? The principle of impermanence, I think it's in Buddhism, it's in, various other spiritual traditions. Everything changes. So that change is occurring in your inner world, in your experience. And in your inquiry, as we inquire, what are we doing? We're getting in touch with the truth of our experience, with what's personally true for us, what's up for us, how we're feeling, what's occupying us, the state of our consciousness. So we're getting in touch with it, feeling into it, being curious about it, trying to understand it. And all sort of coming from this love, this kind of intimacy that we just love being so close to ourselves. We love being close to our truth, discovering our truth. Like even when it's a difficult thing, or if it's a wonderful thing, wherever we are, I'm sure you all have some sense that, when you finally recognize, oh yeah, gosh, I'm feeling really sad. Oh, I didn't realize quite get that before. There's something that feels good about just being close to the truth. And so that's what we're doing. And what we see is that that truth is not a constant single thing. Right? It's more a living, flowing, shape-shifting affair. Right? And that the very act of getting in touch with our experience, and even more of seeing what it is, seeing what's going on, can accelerate that dynamism, can bring about more change, more unfolding. So one word that we use for that is unfolding, right? We talk about how the inner world unfolds. Like as you stay close to any one thing, any experience, with like openness and curiosity, and you see what your ideas about it are, and as you stay with it, it unfolds, it opens up, it begins to change and to reveal more. Right? So that's one of the ways we see the dynamism of our experience. We see that flow and that change. So when we say, like, you got to stay with it, right? You'll hear that a lot in inquiry. Teachers will say, somebody will say, like, just stay with your experience. And people often think that means, okay, I'm going to stay with whatever it is that I'm experiencing, and I'm just going to stay with it, and it's going to stay the same, right? I'm going to stick with it, and it's going to be like this glass, and I'm just going to, explore the glass. And, there's something about it that is like that. You can describe it, describe the inner experience. It feels kind of smooth and shiny and thin and has a certain shape. You can explore your inner world in the same way. But chances are that as you do that, as you're being with it in that way, things will start changing. After a couple of minutes of hanging out with things, it will not be exactly the same thing that you started with. Right? So that's one of the first points to kind of note here this evening, that staying with your experience does not mean staying with a fixed object. It does mean staying with whatever it is that you're focusing on, but you have to stay with it in a kind of loose, easy way that allows it to transform and to unfold and kind of tracks it as it does. Right? And that is a certain kind of skill. That actually takes a certain kind of skill, because it can be easy to, on the one hand, we can try and stay with something and keep it fixed and lock onto it. And then people ask questions like, well, I don't know, I was feeling this young part of me, this inner child, and it was feeling really devastated, and I'm not really feeling it anymore. Let me see if I can get back to it. Hang on, I need to get back to it. I need to go back to what I was feeling before, or I need to get back in touch with whatever the issue was. But actually what's happening is that something has unfolded, it's opened up, and it's shifted. Right? So if you think, oh, I got to get back to whatever I was in touch with before, you might be missing what's happening right under your nose. And what's happening right under your nose is the unfolding. So instead, you kind of sit there and you go, okay, well, I was feeling this little kid that was feeling so frustrated or whatever it was, and it's not here right now. And I don't feel like a little kid. and I feel kind of empty and not really sure, and I don't know what's going on. These are very interesting and important moments in inquiry, right? And it's very easy in those moments to go scuttling back to what feels familiar and known, and to try and get back to something concrete. Right? So that's the first flag I want to sort of plant, that you want to allow your experience to unfold. On the other hand, right, at the other extreme, there can be lots of things that just keep showing up in your experience. You're with a little kid, and then there's the thing that happened yesterday, and then you're feeling some kind of stillness, and then there's the story about your partner and your plans for tomorrow. And so some people, their experience is very dynamic. They're moving around, and things are going, and this thing and that thing and that thing and another, but they're not really exploring any one thing. They're not really penetrating and getting deeper into any one thing, right? And inquiry is very much about that, right? Inquiry is not just sitting there and floating around in the inner ocean and letting the currents carry you wherever they go, right? That's not exactly inquiry. That's a certain kind of continuum of awareness or some other sort of practice like that. No, with inquiry, you find, oh, there's something going on, that's important, that's interesting, I want to find out about it. What is it? So I find out what it is, I get in touch with it, I sense into it and explore it and see what the feelings and the meanings and the sensations are, getting all into it, right? And kind of following it to understand, to penetrate it, to go, well, I wonder, like, what's making this happen? How come I'm reacting in this way? Or how come I'm feeling this kind of love? Right? So it is a process of discovering our experience to get more and more truth, discover more and more truth about it. So in that process, we don't want to just jump from one thing to the next. Sometimes you see people inquire like that, and they just go this and this and this and this and this. And, you know, it's true that they are being where they are in the moment, but that's not really delving into their experience. They're not really getting any deeper into anything. So you don't want to be just doing that. You don't want to be just letting the currents take you totally wherever they do. So you can see there's an art here, right? An art to navigating the dynamism of our experience. That we, on the one hand, have to allow it to unfold, and often in very unexpected ways, as we explore. And on the other hand, we have to, you know, kind of stay on point, right? Stay on track with what it is that we are actually exploring. I sometimes describe it a bit like, you know, it's like following a shape-shifting, color-changing octopus underwater, right? So the creature itself, as it goes, it's morphing and changing and taking on different colors and shapes and forms. So your inner world is like that. As you explore, it's going to be dynamic in that kind of a way. And you've got to learn how to let it do that and not just be tangenting off all over the place. Right? So that's a kind of skill. It's a kind of attunement to the truth, right? To be able to track that we can develop. So that's one way the dynamism of experience, the flow of experience, comes up in inquiry. Another way has to do with what I call, in the first book, in Diving in the Inner Ocean, what I call the magic of inquiry, right? The magic of inquiry. And this is allowing time and space for your experience to affect you, for what you are discovering to have an impact on you. Because oftentimes it does, if you give it that space. So here you're allowing for flow in a different kind of way. For example, you're inquiring away and maybe you do get in touch with some young little part of you. Right? Some little kid, been in a struggle, fighting away for years, right? Trying to be seen, or trying to feel loved, or trying to feel supported. Yeah. So we can get into that young part and describe what it is, right? What's happening. Oh, it feels about 4 or 5, and it's feeling like this, and this is going on, and it feels heartbroken. You know, we can really get into the truth of that little impression as it's surfacing. But it's a different kind of move then to kind of go, well, like, how is it to see this? How do I feel about this? As I recognize this part of my soul or this part of my consciousness, like, how does it touch me? That's a question you can ask. How does it touch me? How is it for me to see this? What's this like for me? These are all ways of asking. You could ask, like, how do I feel about it or towards it? Oftentimes, you see people when they're in touch with some little kid, you ask, like, how do you feel towards that little one? Often, immediately up pops like, oh, there's some kind of care, some kind of compassion arises, maybe a sweetness or love, maybe some kind of protective quality, protective presence arises. Or curiosity. Suddenly you're like, oh, I don't know. I just get really curious about that little person. Like, what's going on with them? So as we are in the process of inquiring, we can always see what's our relationship with our experience? How are we impacted by what we're discovering? Wow, I realize that I'm feeling this kind of, I had this interaction with my friend, and it's kind of left me with the sense of a wound in my heart that I had no idea was there. Whoa, like, oh my God, that feels like a big thing. I need to give that a little space. I feel a bit kind of in shock about what I've discovered. Yeah, so that might happen. Or maybe we expose our superego, like your superego is coming up and it's judging you, getting on your case, making you feel terrible, and you hadn't realized, all you know is you've been feeling shitty the last couple of days. And now you realize that you've had this judgment kind of sitting over you the whole time. Right? And you ask yourself, well, God, how do I feel about that? Do I like it? Hell no. Are you kidding? I hate that. Right. So again, it takes that moment of going, okay, let me just land with what I'm seeing so far, with what's here, and let me see how that is for me. Right? Let me be with my experience. Let me be affected by my experience, and just see what happens. Right? It's not trying to make anything happen. It is simply about, just the truth. Like, well, okay, I've seen this truth. What's the truth of how that affects me? So being affected by our experience is very important, because otherwise, we can see all kinds of things and have all kinds of wonderful states. Maybe you sit there and you suddenly realize you're experiencing the whole world feels like it's made out of love. And you never experienced anything like that before. So to really kind of go, okay, well, how is it for me to feel this? How is it to be experiencing this? How is it to be experiencing another example, like when people start experiencing space and emptiness, and they feel like, sometimes they feel the top of their head and then it feels gone, and the next thing they feel like they can sense their consciousness extending up above their head. And you're like, well, how is it to feel that? Did you ever feel something like that before? No, never. I always thought everything just kind of ended with my body boundary, right? That was it. But suddenly you're experiencing something different. How is it to feel that? How does that affect you? As you give space for that, you're giving space for the truth of your experience to land, to change you, to impact all your beliefs or your reactions or your familiar ideas about yourself or your experience. You're giving your heart an opportunity to respond, to feel the courage or the love or the boredom or the rejection or whatever it is that's coming up. But to bring that out into the open, that's where the whole dynamic unfolding of the inquiry can happen. So the magic of inquiry is really a whole thing, right? A whole thing. It's a whole let's say it's a very important step. Okay, it's something very important to allow your experience, to allow the truth that you're discovering to actually impact you, to have an effect and to change you. Because if you do that, every inquiry that you do on some level is actually changing you. It's either drawing something out of you, it's challenging your beliefs or ideas, it's drawing out your heart or your determination or your curiosity, right? It's engaging your whole consciousness in a very dynamic way. So that's the second sort of broad category. Another sort of category of dynamism and flow in our experience is more how it is arising sort of within our experience itself. And what I mean here is the way that we experience various pulls and flows and draws within our experience. Right? And there are a couple of ways these show up. So one of them, very sort of common dynamic expression in experience, is in a wish or a longing or a wanting. Right? So you're wanting something, you're wishing for something. A lot of time I see people, they're exploring what's there and they're sort of trying to be with it and all of that, but they don't necessarily give themselves space to go like, well, I'm kind of longing for something. I'm wishing for something. My heart is switched on and it's drawing me to something. What is that? What is drawing me, or what am I longing for? What's it like to feel the longing, to feel the draw? Can I get a picture of or a sense or a contact in some way with what it is that I'm longing for or wishing for or wanting? So wishes and longings and desires and that whole sort of flow of the heart, that really is directly feeling the flow of the heart, right, is also part of the whole unfolding of the soul. We long for various things. We long, and often those longings will show up, you'll feel a longing for, I long to go on holiday. I just want to go on holiday. Okay, well, what would be so great about that? I just want to go on holiday and just be on the beach and stare at the sky and just have nothing to do. Oh, okay, so there's the longing. What would that feel like? It would just feel so good. It would feel so relaxing and easy, like there's nothing I have to do. Can just totally let go and be at ease and no obligations or pressures on me. Okay. So as you're feeling that, as you touch into that longing and feel the longing and recognize what's it about, how are you feeling? Right? And what's arising in your consciousness? You can see. Right? Many of these longings, as you allow them, they're pointing to something. Right? They're pointing you towards something. It's like you feel, I'm longing for it, means obviously whatever it is isn't here. Right? Okay, so what is it that's not here? Well, I don't feel that kind of ease and relaxation, and I actually feel pressured and hemmed in and like there's a whole lot of stuff sitting on me. Okay, so then you can check that out, right? Then that becomes the thing that you look into, right? But the longing is revealing something important. It is your soul being drawn in a certain direction, longing to feel a potential of its nature. And usually we stop longings for all kinds of reasons. Well, I got a busy day, I'm at work, I can't sit here and just long to be on holiday. What's the point? But actually it turns out you can. You can sit there and you can go, okay, let me just feel into this for a moment. I'm just going to sit here and feel myself on the beach and just feel what would that be like. And you might be surprised at how readily that connects you to the state that you're trying to get to, that your soul is wanting to feel. I always remember it from a small group when I was in a Diamond Approach group many years ago in Colorado. And somebody was inquiring and they wanted like this beautiful sort of high-tech studio. They wanted this amazing high-tech studio. And the teacher said, well, just imagine it, like let yourself have it. If you feel into having that studio, like everything about it, like just feel into, let yourself have it, and then describe what happens in your consciousness. And sure enough, like some sense of precision and clarity and power and all these essential qualities start popping out, but they were associated initially with this idea of the studio. So this is what happens, right? Our longings and our wishes seem to take us in a certain direction, but if we can let ourselves go there and feel into that, let that dynamism carry us and see what shows up, right? That can be a very powerful doorway. Very powerful doorway. So they're not something to put away. They're not something to get rid of. People think, oh, I shouldn't, I'm supposed to be with what is. I'm just, yeah, well, what is the longing, right? There's a truth to the longing, so you can let yourself go there and explore that. Similar kinds of things in terms of like external things, like how things are affecting you. Like it's a bit what we spoke about, I'm just realizing with the magic, is when you let yourself be impacted by things outside of yourself. So there's the flow that comes up from within yourself, the longings and the wishes and the, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Following those flows, giving yourself time to clarify them. And then there's what are the things that affect you from outside? How does the state of the world affect you? Or how does this person affect you? What do you feel drawn to respond to? Or what do you feel drawn to do or to say? So it's feeling those draws, tuning into those pulls, that magic, we could say. So, kind of touched on various possibilities here. These are just a couple of different ways that the magical, kind of transformational, flowing, dynamic nature of your being, of your consciousness, can show up, can arise. And in your inquiry, the opportunity is there to allow it, to be curious about it, to learn how to work with it skillfully, to flow with it, to let it happen, to not have to negate it or push it away, but to actually give it time. So, that's a little what I wanted to shine a light on this evening. And what we'll do now is we'll go into a little exercise and we'll get into groups of 3. Let's be actually, 3 is okay. Be in groups of 3. And, okay. Groups of 3. And we'll each have 5 minutes, right? And in that 5 minutes, you want to just look into I've touched on these different elements and just see what Like, what touches you? What draws you? What interests you? How do you respond? How are you affected by it? Do you recognize some of what I'm talking about? And what's it like? You might see, how is some of this showing up for you? Like, how is it to attend for a moment to your wishes? Or how is it to give yourself a little moment to see, how's this affecting you? Right? To allow that kind of flow. Or you might just inquire into something that's up for you for a few minutes and then just see, how did it change over the couple of minutes. Right? So really, I'm just giving you 5 minutes to just look into this a little bit for yourself. See what you see, whatever kind of touches you or draws you, you can look into. So you'll be in groups of three. You'll each have 5 minutes, right? And then we'll add an extra couple of minutes in case, for just saying hi to everybody. And we'll be back here in, let's say, around 18 minutes. And, if you're not going to do the exercise, if you need to drop off, then feel free to drop off now. So Susan doesn't put you into a breakout room with someone. And or Michael, whoever's doing, I think Susan's doing them. And yeah, enjoy the exploration. Alrighty, so welcome back, everyone. I'm curious, what did you find? How was it to look into this? What questions or comments, anything that you have you'd like to ask or share? Love to hear from you. Well, what was your experience? Jay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Dominic, I feel like you did it again. You took something that was very simple, and for me, I felt like you really cleaned out a lot of these points that you made. I didn't realize there were little knotted obstacles or assumptions that I've placed with them. And
Uh-huh.
the one that really struck me was the third one, where you were talking about the pulls and the desires and wants. Mm. I think I come from some old spiritual stuff around wanting or longing or desire. That's the big boogaboos. And I
Yes.
felt I felt like I thought I was just cutting out the middleman by not wanting or desiring within an inquiry, because I thought all that desire and wanting was something external. And in the end, it's really not about something outside. So I thought, well, I'm not going to go through that process. So I just kind of,
Right.
yeah. And yeah, I noticed it's like if my teacher says, well, can you just want that or something? It's almost like I put a little timer, like, okay, I'll do it for just to do the exercise. But
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize how much I really rein in this thing, as a part of the inquiry. I think I've always felt like it was only going to take me uh, into some kind of spiral, or like it was going to be
Right.
detrimental.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I mean, it can be. So sometimes people go on and on about what they want, and they want this, and they're wanting, and they're wanting, but in those situations, I think mostly people are A, not really feeling the wanting or not really in touch with it, and B, remember, it's not even so much about that. It can be, but the main thing, what we're interested in, is the truth. Like, so what is the truth of the wanting? Like, it's always just a being, your personal truth. Like, if your truth is you want something, then there's something true in there. And how is it just to make space for that truth?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to
No,
find out about the truth. That's the kind of sweet treasure that we follow here.
yes, yes. I heard your it almost felt like an offering. I heard that, it was just
Huh.
it was like that desire, the want was in service of, I think, as they
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yes. So how's
But,
that affect you to realize that?
well, I feel like it gives me another option in the inquiry because I've been, I had it kind of crossed off. So I
Yeah.
really, you've kind of given back, this, yeah, another tool of,
Uh-huh.
when wanting or desire comes up.
Yeah. How you feel about that?
It's always great to get something extra.
Good.
But I just
Great.
say that what I really got from all of it was that I felt like you were saying, don't dam the flow, but yet don't get carried away by the flow. You know what I mean? There's just
Mm.
that
Yeah.
wonderful skill. I mean, like
Yeah.
for
Oh,
me
that's
to,
beautifully put. Yeah. Yeah, like how to ride the flow, not block it, not exactly get carried away by it, but to really be in the flow. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much for just cleaning up some of these
Oh,
points.
you're very
Yeah.
welcome. I'm glad that was useful for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Anyone else? Anybody have any difficulties with it? Like didn't make sense or Miranda. Oh, Anka and then Miranda.
Okay, I had the experience. I started, and being with two strangers
Hmm.
feels a bit unsafe. And so in addressing that, expressing that that was part of what was going on, and it kind of dissipated. How do you say that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And uh, and then I got into a feeling of, because this is like that's an old companion, thinking, fearing being judged, and okay, that's an old companion. So that was kind of a no judgment, no,
Yeah. Sounds like no judgment.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anka, how do you feel about that old companion?
yeah, it's okay. That's me. That's part of
Uh-huh.
my personality, I guess. But I don't fight with it anymore,
Yeah.
and yeah, just accepting it, and it felt good to old companion. It really felt good.
Yes, that's really expressing something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
To kind of feel it as a, so that's beautiful, kind of both sides of what I was talking about. So the one that simply by recognizing and bringing into the light something,
yeah,
right, that in itself, it, I mean, not that it always goes this way, but in this case, it kind of lost a certain grip, and you could recognize the truth of it just being an old familiar kind of companion. And there's something feels very heartful, very gentle and accepting in that recognition. So it seems to touch you in a very particular way to recognize, oh, that's an old companion.
yeah. I've never had that. It's been something that, no, I want to be free of it, and now suddenly there was old companion. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can come along.
Aha, beautiful. And how does it affect you when you have that kind of feeling towards it?
Yeah, it makes me happy.
Uh-huh.
I feel my heart opening, and relaxation, all kinds of an
Beautiful.
opening. Yeah,
So your heart opens and it's relaxing. See, these are all the effects you can see as you recognize that, as you let it touch you, it keeps touching you, keeps unfolding.
yeah, yeah. Also talking now. Yeah,
And exactly, and then continuing to talk about it and continuing to talk about how it's affecting you. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. You're welcome. I'm glad it makes you happy. All right. And then Miranda. Miranda. Hi, Miranda.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I found it easier actually to start the inquiry from a particular angle and not from a physical sensation. And I found that it was quite a shortcut actually for me. So I was thinking about this wanting as well, and I had when you said to think about something you really want, but I don't want anything. I never want anything. I don't know what I want. So then I was sort of going, okay, so, but how does that feel not to want anything that, and I was sort of going, but that feels quite sort of empty. It feels like a bit of a lack in a way. It feels quite flat, and it's like a flat kind of passive landscape. And then I thought, well, why? And then I sort of started to feel a bit nervous about wanting, that I try and avoid wanting things actually, because I don't want that. I don't like that feeling of wanting. I'm quite frightened of the feeling of wanting and not being able to manage it.
I see.
Because
Okay.
I can get a bit obsessive about things.
Okay. So if you
So
start allowing the wanting, it could get obsessive.
yeah,
Feel difficult to manage.
yes.
Okay. So you see, how is it to just recognize, oh, that's one of my patterns around wanting?
Yeah, well, I thought it was really interesting, and it kind of, in 5 minutes, I thought it unearthed quite a lot, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, probably more for me than starting with a physical sensation. Although I did try and, check in to what was going on in my body as well.
Well, and also what you said is as you were staying with, see, you can enter your experience anyway, enter wherever is good for you. You found you're staying with it, you recognize, oh, I don't want anything. And then you started to feel, oh, that feels a bit flat and a bit kind of empty. And so you were beginning to get in touch with something there that had a little more of a sensate quality.
Yeah.
So that's one direction, very interesting direction to go, like, well, I wonder what that is. What's that like in there, that place of not wanting? And then you're discovering something about how come you don't want to allow the wanting in terms of it becoming obsessive and unmanageable. And you can get curious about that, right? Like what is it that comes up there?
And there's almost a fear and nervousness behind it. So yeah, I thought
Yeah.
it was a really interesting way of doing it. Very helpful, actually.
Wonderful. Good. Yeah, I'm glad that's helpful. You see, that's the nice thing. There's so many different kind of angles into our experience. We can just start with whatever feels closest, most accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Yeah, you're welcome, Miranda. Good to hear from you. And then, Michael, you had your hand up, down.
Sure. I just wanted to, mention something about the magic. And I find that I rarely get addicted to that sense of the magic, seeing the flow, seeing the evolution, and then how that's affecting me and the sort of endlessness of it, the unfoldment. And sometimes when it gets stuck, then it feels quite devastating when I'm in a stuck experience because I love the magic so much. And that's when I end up in these kind of deficient inquiries where it's like, if only it would change.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Okay, that's really good because that's kind of the flip side of it's another side of the magic, actually. So the flow and all of that does happen, but mostly it happens as we land in and are really with the truth of our experience. The truth, as we land with the truth, that's what unfolds. And until we really land with it and are really in it and recognizing the truth, it tends not to flow, right? It tends to stay stuck. And when something stays stuck, it usually means there is something in there that hasn't yet been felt or recognized, right? And if nothing else, there is some part of you that is wanting to get away from the experience that's there, right? That's why you want it to change. As opposed to going, well, okay, so let me just feel this, right? Let me just be with this thing that feels like it's not changing and it's never going to change. Maybe it feels like it's never going to change, right? There can be, though, we can come across those kind of places that feel like, oh, I'm going to go in there and it's going to be the same thing and it's never going to change and I'm going to feel like that forever, right? That can be the experience. But something very interesting happens when you let yourself experience that. You go, okay, well, I'm going to sit here and just feel this emptiness that is never, ever going to change. Like, what happens if I just feel that? See what happens. Usually something starts changing. Right? Of course, you can't manipulate it. You can't go, okay, I'm going to now feel this so that it starts changing, right? That's also kind of, so there's still then some sort of separation from or resistance to the experience, which will tend to keep it stuck.
I find that in that situation, I'm often with, say, a regular inquiry buddy, and I find myself apologizing for doing the same inquiry again. And it's often when I get concerned about them that I know I'm onto something. It's like,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. And your super ego coming up and telling you it shouldn't be the same thing again. And I mean, it is something to look out for. And I think something we've spoken a bit about before. But really, the truth is it's never the same. So it can feel like you're in the same pattern, having the same experience, but it's never really exactly the same, right? And the crucial thing is to approach it as fresh and in the moment as if you're having it for the first time and just see what you can tell in the experience there and then. You know something about it, but you probably don't know anything about it. Everything, I mean, you don't know everything about it. And also, there are experiences that appear to come round over and over again. So, but again, when you really inquire into it in a deep way, you see there's like some different twist to it or some different angle that's coming up. So, yeah, but you got to be open to that. Yeah, great. Thanks for mentioning it. Really, really good points. Yeah, thank you. And Sue, you want to last one?
Yeah, thank you. I really, really enjoyed your talk. Like I loved it. But the thing that really landed was about impact, about letting the inquiry impact me, about recognizing what the impact is, about taking in the impact. It's quite a thing.
Yes.
And it sort of touched me because, and in fact, one of my inquiry partners used the word space between the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really, really good metaphor.
Very.
Because, even and this is also what I'm with now, is this inside outside, because in life often we're on to the next thing. This is the pattern. And it's the same in inquiry, without pausing to go, what just happened there? Let me just be with that, slowing it down.
Beautiful.
And even in relationships as well, because I've noticed, say, with my mother recently, I've just, sometimes I pause her because she jumps. And I just say, hey, Mum, can we just recognize something that's just happened or is happening? Yeah, so I feel it's really precious to have that as a thing, impact.
Yes, it really is. And what you say is very true. And oftentimes, we're off onto the next thing because we want the kind of excitement and we think there's the sort of dynamism and the change and the aliveness and all of that. But actually, doing that, things don't actually end up changing that much. They change a little bit because we're not letting ourselves be deeply impacted. So when we do, as you say, when we really slow down, and feel more deeply and sense more deeply and give ourselves time to recognize the implications and the meanings of what we're encountering, like that's when it really deeply has an effect and deeply changes us then.
And I think for positive and negative things. Because like, for example, recently I'm just remembering now when I'm really enjoying something, then I'm just like going, gosh, I really, really love that. Like, and then inquiring into what's that about, like positive things as well as this tendency to focus on negative impact or, to just like the total experience of just I am impactable and impactful and impacted. It's like it's a different kind of inclusion of something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Sue.
Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, so I think that brings us to time here. We'll still manage to end on time. Susan popped in the chat there so you can see all of the past Dive In With Dom episodes on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel. You can go and follow them there, and feel free to post comments or questions or share them with other people. And you can subscribe to it, and that it's one way to support the work that we're doing here if you find it useful. So thank you very much for showing up. It was really fun hanging out with you and exploring this. And next month, we'll go on to the third leg of this whole exploration, which will bring us into actually functioning and living, like what we actually do and how we express what we are. So look forward to exploring that with you in May.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody.
Everybody, bye.
Bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Day.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you, Don.
Bye. Yeah, you're welcome.